All right, people. Earlier today, we took a look at 5 players on the offensive side of the ball that impressed me at the Combine. So in this video, we're going to take a look at 5 defensive players who did the same. And again, like I said in the video earlier today, I'm taking a look at these guys through the lens of just being a Seahawks fan. There are definitely other guys on the defense that impressed me at the Combine. Don't get me wrong. There were definitely some guys who showed me they have a chance to be really good in this league, but we're talking about specifically for the Seahawks. So keep that in mind as we go forward here. I'm talking about guys who I think make sense for this particular team at this particular moment, knowing how the team is set up, knowing how the rest of the draft for the team will probably go. So we're not going to be just looking at the cream of the crop here because there were definitely some really impressive guys at the top. We're really just trying to take a look at guys who made me like them more, who I could see the Seahawks pursuing. In a couple of these cases, we actually know that the team has already met with the player, not that that necessarily means anything, and there seems to be at least some degree of mutual interest. So with that in mind, let's go through 5 guys on the defense. We're going to do 1 lineman, 1 edge rusher, 2 linebackers, because we really need linebackers, and 1 cornerback. We're going to skip safety, because that's whatever. All right, let's take a look at some of these guys. My defensive lineman would be Bryan Bresee from Clemson. He had a nice combine, showed up weighing about 300 pounds. He's a good size. Granted, I don't know what a player of that size is going to do in a 3-4 defense, but we don't even know if we're sticking with a 3-4 defense, and I'm sure he'll find a way because he's good. His testing scores were solid, nothing amazing, nothing over the top. 4.86 for a 300-pound man is really good. His other scores were a little more mixed, but the most important thing about Bryan Bresee from the Combine was what he did during the on-field workout drills, where he was actually moving around as a defensive lineman might have to in an actual football situation. It looked very natural. It looked very clean. He looks like a natural football player. And ultimately, testing scores matter, size matters, weight matters, but what really matters is how are you going to play when a football game starts. And to me, Bryan Bresee clearly looks like a guy who is going to be a good player in this league. Obviously, the concerns with Bresee would be the situation with his sister, the fact that he hasn't played a lot of football lately because of medical issues and personal life issues. But as a football player, he impressed me. And if you can get him at number 20 in this upcoming draft, which may very well be a possibility, I'm now pretty excited. The edge player I'm going to take a look at will be Nolan Smith, the Georgia edge player. He had a monstrous combine, came in weighing maybe a little bit less than you would like, but most players bulk up at least a tiny bit in the NFL. And his testing scores were so insanely good, it kind of overrode whatever concerns you might have there. Ran the 40-yard dash in sub 4.4, so he's fast. Pretty nice explosion as well, 1.52 in the 10-yard split. And his vertical jump and broad jump were crazy for a guy of this size. Like, for an edge player, this is approaching historically explosive numbers. So, Nolan Smith was one of those guys who I kind of viewed as being in that second, maybe even third tier of edge players in this draft. I wasn't really sure if I viewed him as like a mid-second round guy or maybe even a late second round guy. Now I'm starting to think he's a first-round guy, and honestly, given the fact that he's stuck behind a lot of players at Georgia, which, I mean, if you're a defensive player on Georgia, you're going to get stuck behind guys. It's just is what it is. Maybe we need to reevaluate him a little bit. Maybe he actually has the chance to be a stud in the NFL. So Nolan Smith, I don't know how I feel about spending a first-round pick on him right now, but if he's there early in the second, I would definitely go for it, and honestly, at number 20, I don't know if I can completely ignore the possibility now. Okay, next guy we're going to take a look at here would be Daiyan Henley of the Washington State Cougars. His combine was solid. There was nothing spectacular about his testing scores necessarily. He's a smaller guy. He ran a pretty good 40-yard dash. 10-yard split was fine. The vertical jump was okay. Broad jump was okay. But where Henley stands out is what he does in the drills. Specifically coverage. Everything about Daiyan Henley that I've ever seen, ever read, ever heard, has been, this guy is good in coverage for a linebacker. So Daiyan Henley, in a league full of players at linebacker who are not very good in coverage and a draft that is not very good at linebacker, he continues to advance the way I look at him. And at this rate, he may end up a second-round pick, and I can't argue against it. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and say it. Daiyan Henley has a chance to be a second-round pick, and if he's there when Seattle's second-round pick comes up, I'm not saying no. This guy has a very unique skill set at the position. This guy can cover. This guy is offering a good amount of speed, a decent athlete. Yes, he's a little bit undersized. Yes, that's going to concern some people, but I've said it before, I'll say it again. That is the wave of the future at the linebacker position. It just is. Most of these guys are going to be smaller because we need them to be quicker. We need them to be able to keep up in coverage. Look at the tight ends in this league right now. You need fast linebackers to keep up with them, or else you're going to get screwed. All right, the second linebacker who really impressed me at the Combine and boosted his stock in my eyes would be Owen Pappoe, and he basically did so by being an incredibly good athlete. He ran a really good 40-yard dash. It was significantly better than Henley's, and Henley weighs basically the same as Pappoe, 225 pounds. He's actually a little bit shorter than Henley as well, so yes, he is a little undersized, but he makes up for it with his speed. Pretty good athleticism scores, a little bit better than Henley. And he killed the bench press. He actually led all linebackers in bench press reps with 29. So, seems to me this Owen Pappoe guy, he's got something going on here. It's not just a matter of him being fast but weak. No, this guy has some functional strength as well for sure. It's just a matter of his size. And yes, that's going to be a problem when you're trying to tackle the Derrick Henrys of the world. But when you're trying to deal with the faster players, when you're trying to cover tight ends, when you're trying to deal with players in coverage, Owen Pappoe is going to have a much better chance than a guy like Sewell. So Owen Pappoe is one of my favorite linebackers in this class at this point. The athleticism is off the charts. There's a real chance this guy ends up being a nice player at the NFL level. So keep an eye on him. Wouldn't shock me if he ended up being a third-round pick, and I would not be mad about getting him around that point as well. So one more guy. This is going to be the cornerback. It is Julius Brents. And I know we don't really need a cornerback, and we certainly don't need an outside cornerback at the very least. But this is the kind of guy that I think makes sense to go after. Now, granted, he had a good combine, so I don't know if he's going to be available late enough for the Seahawks to justify spending a pick, but would you be willing to spend like a third-round pick on this guy? Maybe. If he's going to be good, then he's going to be good. And if he's going to fit, then he's going to fit. I'm sure we'll get over it. I mean, look, it's a good problem to have, right? Having too many good cornerbacks. 6'3", just shy of 200 pounds, 34-inch arms. This is a Pete Carroll kind of cornerback. And he's a pretty good athlete as well. He did not. A lot of people thought he was going to run like a 4.740 because he's so big. He did not. 4.53 is workable. 10-yard split. Not great, but for a man of his size, workable. Great athlete. Vertical jump, 41.5 inches. Broad jump, 11.5 feet. That's really good. And it's obviously helped by the fact that he's tall, but that doesn't make up the entire difference between him and other corners. His 3-cone drill was good. His 20-yard shuttle was good. Guy is a good athlete for his size. And again, I'll say it, we don't really need an outside corner, but if this guy... I mean, what if he pulls a Tariq Woolen and ends up there in the 4th round? I'm definitely jumping on him there. I'll say that. All right. Those were 5 guys on the defense that impressed me with their combines. Let me know what you guys think. Peace out. Go Hawks. See y'all later.